Thank you, John. Good morning, everyone. I'm Louis Lee, and this is Louis' hat. And I am here to give the IANA Number Services Review Committee report. So, as you've seen from past presentations that Jason has given, there is nothing to see here. This stuff is really boring and should be boring as long as the IANA operator continues to do a good job. Now, please do pay attention at the end for a little discussion, if you would. So I would go over the formation of the review committee, role and the members, along with the current work status. And then the 2017 IANA transactions, which for us resulted in a report, and I'll go over the conclusions. And the last bit is the community engagement and input, and that's where I actually want you to pay attention. The review committee was chartered by the NRO Executive Council and formed in 2016. It's based on the CRISP recommendations that the Internet Number community proposed to the Stewardship Coordination Group, the ICG, called for the establishment of an IANA Numbering Services Review Committee. So we abbreviate that with IANA RC. Our role is to advise and assist the EC in its periodic review of the SLA of the services provided to the Internet community. And we are also a tool for the community to evaluate and review the performance of the services that are provided. So we help to ensure that there's community involvement to support and enhance the multi-stakeholder model. Who is the RC? The RC is made up of 15 members, and in the ARIN region is made up of the elected members that are the NRO Number Council, namely myself and Jason Schiller. Jason is the vice chair with Narani Nimpuni from RIPE as the chair. You'll note that in bold that we have some new representatives since the last update given in October. Also you'll see the asterisks, those are the ones that are the staff representative from each RIR for this community, RC. So our current work status, in February, we put out a call for comments for the IANA Services Performance Matrix and the Performance Standard Metrics. This was a 30-day call on the metrics that were provided to the community on the requests that IANA has received and responded to. And then just last week, we published our own report on the matrix, these metrics, and also any community input that was given. Also, as a review committee, we are refining our operating procedures. So there were 4 transactions in 2017. You see here the March and July transactions, which had to do with a V4 request and an ASN request. We noted that these were acknowledged on time, responded on time, and implemented and accurately on time. And then in September and December, there were also a V4 request and an ASN request, same result. So last week we put out a report, and you can totally read online the full report, but our conclusions, we reached 4 conclusions. The first one is that all 4 requests were fulfilled accurately and on time. And the second one was that the SLA obligations, we saw that there were no indication of failure or near failure or any concern for interest or concerning or interesting patterns that we detected. Also, the Internet community, number community, we concluded there were no indication of concern for IANA performance, partially in that there were no comments provided for the matrix, which kind of seems like everything's going okay. So I'll ask you more questions about that later. So believe that there were sufficient community outreach and involvement in order to support and enhance the multi-stakeholder model in the open, transparent, bottom-up process for this review of the IANA performance. So this is where we're getting into where it might be a little interesting to look up from your email. This review committee, we're expected to engage with the community during our term, and this is communicating relevant developments and collecting feedback on the IANA numbering operations. So we take this in as advice when it's appropriate, and we will review the comments and summarize it in our reports. So now that we have our first report out, how well do you think this process worked? Any concerns about that? Any concerns about the conclusions that we've reached, or maybe thoughts that we could do a little better for the 2018 report? Do you have other feedbacks, observations, praise?
Microphones are open.
Andrew Dahl, CrowdStrike. I have a question about if you feel the process is the right level of effort for what we are asking the IANA to do today.
If the
My question makes
process, go ahead and repeat it.
So are we spending the appropriate amount of time? Like, is it too much time, too little time to do this report given our current relationship with IANA?
Okay, I'll take it. I believe we're doing the right amount, putting a right amount of effort in. In future years, if what we've been doing, if the process is working well, the amount of work actually would be decreased because now we have a good template. We understand what we're looking for, and we can just follow along and do it that way. If there are changes or concern that the community has about the way we're doing it, please let us know.
No, I think it's good from what I can see so far. I just, as one of the people I think who pushed for this type of committee when we were doing the CRISP project, my thought listening to the first report was when we thought up this idea or thought there should be a review committee of the SLA agreement, I'm not sure I had thought through all the ramifications of what it means and who does it and all that stuff, right? And you've come up with this process to do it. And so my question comes from, did we get it right? Are we doing the right and appropriate thing with the right number of people, not too many people, not too few people? So it sounds like we, after our first report, feel like we have a good process now, and we can use that as our future learning to go forward.
So, yes, we have something that works. It's a working process. There are things in this world that don't work. They should usually get attention before the things in the world that do work. Having said that, given the number of requests we do per year, given the track record of performance, we have an incredibly robust review process for an incredibly well-performing vendor, and all of it could be done with much less activity. Is it worth the effort to put in to reduce and change the process and get agreement for it in order to save the net labor? And it's a hard trade-off. When you have something that's working, it's a borderline. Certainly if the community directs and all the RIRs agree, then we can undertake that, but even that process takes time.
Yeah.
Owen DeLong, representing myself. We pay IANA functions roughly 600 and something $1,000 a year, right, John?
Our contract, the IANA service level agreement for IANA numbering services has us pay $675,000 per year for that purpose.
Okay. where does that go? Because it's certainly not that expensive to operate a registry where you delegate blocks of numbers to RIRs. And I'm asking,
So let's sort of, there will actually be a report later, a PTI report by Kim Davies, but also recognize that the IANA function handles us and handles protocol and parameters and handles the DNS root zone. All of that is in the PTI, but all has a group of people. That's an expense. Plus ICANN has expenses, overhead expenses, legal support, shared services that they use. All of that go into one pool of money, and we said we would pay $675. It's not a fee per request. It's not a, just a fixed agreed number. Could it be done for less? Possibly. Could it be done with the same rigor for less? The same level of reporting? We have a very high level of reporting for a very low number of requests. Monthly reports, even though we only have half a dozen requests a year. So given all of the constraints we've put in on the service provider, there's a lot of costs that would be a lot less if you and I were keeping track of this in Excel out in the hallway out here. But I guess at a high level, that's your answer. Probably best to approach Kim Davies when we have the report later.
okay, I
Okay.
think there's a lot of ground in between the Excel spreadsheet and $675,000.
Okay. If there's nothing else,
Any
thank you.
other questions? All set. Thank you, Louis.